Hello there. Let's talk about Doctor Who because that's always fun. Welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. Right, a quick video about Doctor Who. Not a great long diatribe. I'm not discussing anything in particular. I'm just talking about something which has been slightly in the press recently, in the press last week, and there hasn't been a massive amount of fan comment on it that I've seen. I've seen some of the forums talking about it. I haven't seen much on YouTube, but then I haven't, for obvious reasons, gone looking too much to see people talking about Doctor Who because it all gets very angry and silly. Speaking of which, if you're new here, why not like and subscribe to this channel? There's a lot of Doctor Who content here, not so much at the moment, of course, because the show is off screen, but I am doing my retro Doctor Who videos, Doctor Who Classics Revisited. The first episode, Brain of Morbius, is online a little further back if you want to see me talking about that story. I'm not reacting to it, but just talking about it and reviewing it after a rewatch. And there'll be another episode of that coming next week. I won't say what it is just yet. Let's talk then about an interview that appeared online last week at Deadline. I think I've referenced Deadline before, the entertainment website that has interviews and features and reviews and bits and pieces. And there was last week an interview from Jane Tranter from Bad Wolf. Now, Bad Wolf, as you know, are the current producers of Doctor Who for BBC Studios. It's the organisation set up by Jane Tranter and Julie Gardner, former executive producers of Doctor Who and now executive producers again, along with Russell T Davies and Phil Collins, and as you know, the so-called Dream Team who worked on Doctor Who back in the 2000s for its original reinvention. They're back working on the show now, hand in hand with Disney, who are financing for the rights to screen it on Disney Plus across the world. And they are producing Doctor Who from their studios on the other side of Cardiff Bay. Bad Wolf have made the first season, they made the anniversary specials, they've done, 8, 9, 12 episodes of Doctor Who so far, and the second season is in the can. I do all this preamble just so that you know where we stand. There's been some talk in the past couple of months, I think since the last season ended, about the scheduling of the most recent series of Doctor Who, and I think most of us agree that perhaps screening it in May wasn't a particularly clever idea. It had the effect of depressing the overnight viewing figures and perhaps even the catch-up viewers as we move into the summer. Now, there are a couple of videos on this channel about the Doctor Who viewing figures and why they aren't as catastrophic in the current climate as certain fans and naysayers would have you believe. But they could be better, obviously. And I think that a lot of people have felt that the screening in May wasn't a great idea. And I think that the BBC weren't particularly happy that it was screened at that time of the year. I think Disney wanted it screened then. There were issues mentioned about difficulties in getting all the visual effects and things done, which I'm a little bit sceptical of because I don't think there was anything hugely visual in the last season, apart from the last couple of episodes, that would require or cause a massive delay in the episodes being ready to air. So there's been some talk in the past few weeks that the next series would air a bit earlier, in March next year, because the next season, don't forget, is finished. It's been filmed. They were filmed pretty much back to back. I think there was a short break in between the first and the second series. But the second series, the principal photography is all done. All that needs to be done now, and I say that in an all way, because I know it's quite a big thing, is the post-production, all the special effects, the music, and all the bits and pieces, the final edits, to get it ready for transmission. So I think a lot of people have anticipated it would air in March, and that's certainly been the buzz, the online buzz over the past couple of months, because it was felt that the BBC felt that it started too late. It would benefit from starting earlier in the year. And Disney Plus, who I think would want to up the show's profile, would want it on earlier as well, perhaps. Some said that it was still going to be screened in May. I think I saw a reference recently that somebody on Instagram had put a comment saying, looking forward to seeing Doctor Who in March or something. And Russell T Davies himself, he's not on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Facebook or any of those, but he is on Instagram, and I think he put a comment saying, I don't know why, that date's nonsense, as if to suggest it's not going to be on in March, which would make you think it's going to be on in May, as it was this year, which again I don't think is a good idea. However, shade has been cast upon that in the last week or so, with Jane Tranter's interview in Deadline. I'm getting back to talking about Deadline, where she's promoting Series 3 of Industry. This is Bad Wolf's business drama series. It's as I say, it's in its third season. I've never seen it. It's screened on BBC Two over here. I think it's HBO in America. And I think the bulk of the interview is talking about how the show has now been promoted to what is a primetime slot on HBO, where they hope it will gain some traction and pick up more of an audience. I believe it's one of those cult shows that people who love it watch it, but it's got a pretty small audience, I imagine. Anyway, it's back for its new series. As part of the interview, however, the question of Doctor Who came up, of course, inevitably when you're talking to one of its movers and shakers. And Deadline specifically asked Jane Tranter. Bad Wolf also produces Doctor Who for Disney+. How have you felt about the reception to the first new season on Disney+, and what do you think about its longevity? Her response is fairly bland. I mean, she doesn't talk about any negative response. There's very much a tunnel vision focus on everything's wonderful, because she says, we feel really good about the first season. Just as Industry was a really small experiment at the start, I think this new building of the franchise between the BBC and Disney+, it's a whole new iteration, and us all coming back all these years later to do it. It was a whole new adventure. We're really pleased with the show that we've made, and that there is a whole new audience being driven to the show who haven't watched Doctor Who in the past has been exactly what Russell T Davies set out to do. Again, we can all look at those comments and think, yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what's happened. I don't know if a new audience has been driven to Doctor Who, an older audience has been driven away. I don't know, but she's happy. And apparently the BBC are happy. So that's all good. She goes on to say, we announced last week that we're doing The War Between the Land and the Sea, which is the first time there's a mini-series within the whole universe. So we're thrilled that the BBC and Disney Plus have awarded us that to do. This is the interesting bit, and this is the bit I wanted to talk about in this video. We're still in the edit, very early days of the edit for Season 2, which obviously won't go out for another year or so. It's very exciting, we're right in the middle of the journey, and it's very exhilarating. I mean, that's all the sort of media hype and media fog that people in the industry will say about the things that they're doing. They're not going to address any issues, any negativity, anything but a positive spin. What's interesting is where she says Season 2 obviously won't go out for another year or so. Now, this interview was conducted and published at the beginning of August. Well, maybe conducted at the end of July, but it was published online at the beginning of August. Now, she's saying at that point, does not go out for another year or so. That suggests possibly an autumn time slot for the next series. That means it will air in September, October next year, the winter months, the months that traditional Doctor Who fans seem to think Doctor Who can flourish because it's dark and it's, the audiences are at home and Doctor Who works better in the dark and all these cliches that we've heard over the decades. But it's odd because that means that it will be, apart from the Christmas special coming up, better part of 18 months between seasons of Doctor Who, which flies in the face of what Russell T Davies said when he came back to the show, that there would be regular series of Doctor Who. He also said, in relation to the first series, there were only 8 episodes in the first series, and he appreciated that people were disappointed by that, but that would change. But there are 8 in the next series. So it does seem, from what she says, that we might have a longer wait than we anticipated. Now, whether that was just her not appreciating what time of year it was when she was being interviewed, not thinking about time as such, but it's quite a specific thing to say. Will not go out for another year or so. I think if you're thinking another year, as I said, September or so could make it even later. I don't think it's going to be later than that. I wouldn't think that anybody involved in the show or the BBC would want another 2-year gap or near enough 2-year gap because, in fact, since the end of Russell T Davies' first run as the producer, when he did 4 seasons, then specials, and then things became a little looser after that. We had a couple of regular seasons, then it was split seasons, then there were gaps. Doctor Who's never been an annual thing since then, I don't think. There have been long gaps in between seasons. And I think at a time when they're trying to build the show's reputation up internationally, particularly on Disney Plus, having that long gap seems counterproductive. If you've got episodes that have been filmed, get them ready, get them out as soon as you can, get the audience used to the show. Because in the streaming era, one of the complaints of the streaming era is there are so many long gaps between seasons of shows. Whereas back in the old, primarily network days, you would get a new season of a show, 26 episodes every year. And I remember watching things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel at the turn of the century. They would churn out 22 episodes every year. Granted, not all of them were fantastic, but 22 45-minute stories. And those two shows in particular were great shows. The X-Files, again, did 26 episodes a year for years. And I know that TV production standards have changed. Shows are more expensive now. Runs have become shorter. But on that basis that runs have become shorter, you'd expect them to come around a bit quicker. Stranger Things, for example, its fifth and final season is still in production. But season 4 aired, I'm thinking 2-3 years ago, with those very long extended episodes. I mean, with Stranger Things in particular, I think the lead cast who started off tiny little toddlers, they're going to be in wheelchairs by the time we get to see that final season. So, yeah, it seems odd. And again, the whole issue of the production, saying the episodes aren't ready because of some visual effects. I stand by comments I've made about the last season that I think visually did not look anything like as spectacular or lavish as the Chris Chibnall seasons. Then I'll put my hand up and I'll say that. I think I've said it before, but I'm saying it even more boldly now. It seemed smaller scale. It didn't seem as big. It didn't seem as visual. For all the new Disney money, I saw more of it in Flux, where there was no Disney money. Flux, to me, looked like a bigger season. A lot of season 12, Jodie Whittaker's second season, seemed bigger. But that's just a by the by. So I don't buy the argument that says it takes us a year to do the post-production on Doctor Who, because there's 8 episodes. And whatever visuals you have, that's all been part of the pre-production process. The computer people know what they've got to do. It's not as if they film the episodes and then they go and think, all right, we're going to create this, we're going to create that. It's all done in advance. So I don't buy the argument that it takes a year to do the visual effects for an 8-episode series. And I compare it to things like, Marvel make their feature films. They're currently filming Fantastic Four. That started filming 2 weeks ago. It has a release date of July next year. So are we honestly saying that a big budget Marvel film, which has only just started filming, is going to be released, it's going to be made, edited, the effects added, the music added, all the bang and flash added, that's going to be on screen 3 or 4 months before an 8-episode run of a TV series, however well budgeted that TV series is? I don't buy it. So this is just me talking randomly off the top of my head in relation to this now, but certainly from what Jane Tranter is saying, and she is an executive producer. She's not the tea lady. She's not a carpenter. She's not somebody, a secretary. She's not somebody behind the scenes. She knows what's going on. She's responsible for the day-to-day running of the show in a way. She says it won't be out for another year or so. Suggests to me that it won't be until next September. That may be wrong. Maybe it's too early to call. Maybe that's what they're thinking of. Maybe there are plans to bring it back earlier. I don't know. But I think certainly for the second series of a new run of the show, which is struggling to find approbation amongst its audience and to find its audience, I think leaving it 18 months or so, pretty much 18 months from the last series, bar a Christmas special, would be a silly thing to do. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. I mean, this is what I'm taking from this little piece that came out last week. That's how I'm interpreting it. One of the big 4 cheeses responsible for the show says won't be on for another year or so. If she just said won't be on until next year, I wouldn't be recording this video now. But that particularly jumps out at me as a particular pointer to the fact that we may have to wait a little longer for the next short run of Doctor Who than we want to. So that's my take on that. Tell me what you think. If you've heard about this, let me know what your thoughts have been or are. Let me know whether you want to see Doctor Who back sooner. You might not want to see it back at all. As ever, in the subject of Doctor Who, keep it sensible, keep it constructive. I'm interested in constructive comments about what you think this all means for the future of the show, even in the short term, in terms of its next series. We've got this spin-off series starting filming next month. That may be on next May. That could be an interim thing, which leads us into the series. I don't know. We can only work with pieces of the puzzle that we have, and we don't have all the pieces. So yeah, it's just conjecture at the moment. So let me know what you think. But as I say, keep it respectful, keep it clean, keep it insult-free as well would be marvellous, because if you just F and Jeff, it'll be bye-bye. Right, thank you for watching. Once again, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.